You are listening to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast presented by Realm of the Mist Entertainment with your host, John Tolley.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast, coming to you, as always, from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. Joining me today, back from his excursion to the unknown regions, is Mr. Ray Rumsey. Ray, how are you today?
I am quite well. There is no galactic prison that can hold me.
And it sounds like, unfortunately, Joe is not here. He is currently in a back-to-tank recovering. But
yeah, yep.
Yeah, it's going around. Yeah, it's that time of year. Weather changing. Goes from, I don't know what it's like out east, but it's. Fall is officially here. It's been raining the last 3 days, just pretty much nonstop. Just that kind of icky, cold fall weather.
Yeah.
And they actually, here they're, for Halloween, they're actually calling for the dreaded S word.
Ooh.
Yes. We'll be doing our best Hoth impersonation here in Illinois.
Yeah, they moved ours to Saturday.
Oh.
Because of inclement weather.
Yes. But yeah, things have been going good over here. Just had a birthday over the weekend, so had fun with that. And
awesome.
Went to a hockey game in Peoria and spent the weekend with the wife and watching some hockey action on the ice. And other than that, yeah, had fun. But we're not here to talk about hockey or my birthday. This is not that podcast. And I don't know who would listen to that podcast, but we are here to talk Star Wars. And I don't know if you heard, but there was a little trailer that came out.
Yes.
For Episode 9, and we will be getting to that soon. Ladies and gentlemen, that is called foreshadowing.
Indeed.
But the big news other than that is the news that Benioff and Weiss, who, of course, if you don't know, were the minds behind the Game of Thrones series, they initially were tasked to create a Star Wars trilogy of their own. And it was just announced that they are, let's see if I can pull up the article. They're no longer making their Star Wars movie. This broke early Tuesday morning, and there's a lot of speculation on the internet, of course, and a lot of mixed reviews, especially after the last season of Game of Thrones was kind of what didn't watch it, but when I heard it was kind of lackluster, and a lot of people weren't really too thrilled with the final episode. So there's a lot of speculation and a lot of worry that once they ran out of the books and it was just on their own, that they weren't as creative as many people might have thought, because they were using already used material to go from, so they really didn't have to do a lot of thinking and a lot of be that creative, because they could just look at the books and it's like, well, this is what the books say. And that once they ran out of the material, the show went past the books, that the show kind of started to dip. The quality of the show of Game of Thrones started to dip. And so I know there's a lot of worry that once those names were attached to it, those two names were attached to it, that what would it be like? But at the same time, I think a lot of people are also excited at the potential of a Old Republic movie or Old Republic TV series.
Yeah.
Because with their pedigree in Game of Thrones, it kind of made sense that they would be brought in to create an Old Republic movie. So, I don't know what your thoughts are on it, if you think this is a good thing or if it's, and this is one thing I really wish we could have had Joe on, being a filmmaker, because, because I think these kind of things happen more often than we know of, where, for whatever reason, someone is pulled from a project or pulls himself from a project. And I know that they were working on a Netflix series too, and it could just be one of those things that it was just a conflict of interest. There was a time conflict, and they decided to go with the Netflix show instead of the movies. So
yeah.
I mean, to me, that almost seems like kind of what it is that it was just a conflict where, and it happens all the time where either an actor is slated to be in a role and then he finds out, hey, I got this other gig coming up and I'm going to take this other gig.
Right.
Famously, the most famous one I can think of is Indiana Jones. Tom Selleck was originally supposed to play Indy in the Indiana Jones movies, but he already signed a contract to play Magnum PI. And so he had to pull out. And of course, as we all know, Harrison Ford got that gig. So, I mean, this kind of stuff happens all the time with, actors or directors or writers, being scrapped for whatever reason, whether it be they get a better gig or there's a conflict or whatever. So,
yeah, I mean, Game of Thrones was all right, I guess. I know that's probably going to be an unpopular opinion. I just couldn't really get into it. But when you think about how a movie comes together, it's not just the directors. I mean, you got writers, you've got producers. There's lots of moving parts, and if any one of them kind of craps, then they all crap. So I don't know. Maybe it was a good thing, and you probably are onto something. Where when they ran out of book material, I mean, albeit I never even got that far. All I know is the little clips that I saw on Facebook and things like that, and of course the millions of people screaming about the ending of Game of Thrones. So I think that we very well might have dodged a laser on that one.
We might have. So other than that, there's really not a lot more news that I've been seeing. Unfortunately, neither one of us have had a chance to see the Mandalorian trailer. But once we do, we will definitely give our opinions on that. But as I alluded to before, we have a Episode 9 trailer that dropped last week. Was it last week that it dropped?
When?
It was Monday.
Yeah.
It was Monday night. It was halftime of Monday Night Football.
October 21st, right? What was that? That might have just been when I saw it get posted on YouTube.
It could have been, yeah.
But
anyway, we're going to go break this down. But first of all, let's just give our initial thoughts. And I'll start. So, what were your initial thoughts of the trailer?
Well, to be honest, I think it was much more transparent than the last one.
Okay.
In the regards that, okay, so the last trailer came out, everybody got hung up on Rey with the red lightsaber.
Right.
And I mean, that was just the talk of the town, and that and C-3PO's eyes. Um,
Oh,
but but in this one, we see C-3PO with normal eyes. We see Rey
mhm.
with her classic lightsaber, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like this
Well,
one is much more accurate to look. There's no secrets. There's no hidden message. This is it. This is what it's
yeah.
gonna be. I think that's what we got.
Well, I looked at tried to find similarities and differences between all of, and I think the similarities is the one word that I keep coming up with when I look at all of them. The way they're shot is epic. This is very like this the vistas and the camera work. The way that everything just looks big and it's very epic. And all of them in some way or shape or form try to pull at your heartstrings. There's
Right.
always there's these moments that you're just like, trying to, they almost tried to force you to wipe away the tears. This one didn't have, as you put it, those, oh my gosh moments. Those, holy crap, what was that? The first one, of course, had the laugh.
Right.
At the end, the second one, of course, had the red lightsaber. This one really didn't have that moment. This trailer didn't have that. What was that moment? Unless, of course, you count the C-3PO scene, which we will get to that. But there's a lot more. This one had so much stuff going on in it that this one was more of a feast for the eyes.
Right.
There was just so much stuff going on. You're just like, what was that? 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 So I think we should just get right into it and start breaking this down. What do you think, man?
I think that's probably a good idea.
All right. So of course we start with the trailer with the Lucasfilm logo coming up, which always classic. Always love that. And to all the Disney haters, let me just say this one last time. Disney does not make Star Wars. Lucasfilm still makes Star Wars. Yes, Disney owns Lucasfilms, but Lucasfilms makes Star Wars. Love that they put that in there. And I'm going to come to one of my first theories.
Okay.
With the opening shot where you see Rey what looks like the training. I love the fact that they had the classic helmet from New Hope with the visor and the little training droids chasing after her. And where do you think this is set at? I want to ask you first.
I mean, and it's probably just because of the helmet that falls right in the get-go, but it definitely reminds me of Endor.
I don't think it is Endor.
Well, the forest moon of Endor.
I don't think it is, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. First, I'll tell you why I don't think it's Endor. Endor was just a forest, but it was a deciduous forest. It was shot, of course, as many people may know, in Northern California in the Redwood Forest. This looked much more jungle-ish. This much more lush. Later on, we see a scene where it's kind of mountainous. I think we're on Yavin 4.
Oh, yes.
I think we're on Yavin.
Which would make sense given at some point there was a new temple set up there, right? Didn't Luke
in the EU,
right,
in the old expanded universe, Luke set up his academy on Yavin.
Right.
The other thing that makes me think that is there's a scene later on where there's a hangar where everyone is gathered around that looks a lot like the inside of the Maasai temples that the rebels used in A New Hope.
Right.
The bases. So I think in that scene we're back on Yavin. I think that the Resistance has set up a base back on Yavin 4.
That's cool. That's a good theory.
I've heard a few people mention this, and more and more I think about it, I think that if we're not on Yavin, we're on a new planet. but my guess is that we're on Yavin 4. I think we're going to get a lot of. I think we definitely will be back on Endor, but I think for this particular scene that we are on Yavin, we see a scene of her jumping, and then I love the cut from her jumping from over the cliff, and the scene switched to the jungle planet to what looks like probably inside the Death Star.
Yeah, I agree with that observation.
Yeah,
because if you look at the part after she does the quote unquote hero landing, behind her, you can almost, I mean, at least to me, that looks like the same bridge that they would fight on.
Yeah. Well, and also it looked. If you look in the distance, kind of behind her, you kind of see a tower that looks almost like the same type of shield generator tower that Obi-Wan used on the first Death Star to turn off the shield.
Yes.
Kind of that area. Yeah. So I definitely think we're on the second Death Star. Then you get that scene of, as I mentioned before, in the you get a scene of Finn, the voiceover by Finn, talking about the Force bringing them together.
Still looking confused as always.
Of course, it's Finn. Do you think he's talking about just him and Rey, or do you think he's talking about all of them? That the Force brought all of them together, him, Finn, Poe.
I think he's talking about all of them, to be honest.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I think he's talking about all of them. Then the Poe talking about good people, people leading will follow, and that scene. And this is my second theory. The scene where you see Lando kind of holding court in the hangar, where you see everyone just kind of gathered around. I think because there's some scenes where you see people kind of having their hands on each other's shoulders and looks like they're consoling each other. I think they're getting the news of General Organa's death.
Yeah.
I think that's the scene we're going to see where where everyone finds out that Leia has died.
Yeah, I think that's probably very true.
Yeah, we get a quick look at Rose and some new characters in the background, and then we also get a little bit of a look at Poe's new X-wing. And I don't know, what did you think of the new color scheme, the orange color scheme, instead of the black?
The orange actually really kind of reminds me of the new. Admittedly, I haven't watched it in forever, but the new one that was on Disney about the fighters.
Yeah,
that's kind of what it reminds me of.
The Star Wars Resistance.
Maybe that was it. It's the most recent one that Disney had out.
The newest one. Yeah.
And that's kind of what it reminds me of. But I mean, I like it. I enjoy the orange color, to be honest.
I did. And then speaking of orange, we also get, well, not orange, but our first really, I guess you could say, full-on fan service scene where you see the Tantive 4 crashing over the forest.
Yep.
Jungle, the blockade runner. And that was my first one of, ooh, that was cool. Seeing the ship again, seeing Leia's ship coming up, and some people speculated that the ship will get shot down, and that's how they'll take Leia as far as her death. That she'll be on her ship going somewhere, and the ship will be destroyed.
Judging by the way it's crashing through the trees and everything, I think they're probably letting Rey fly.
Or Anakin, another happy landing.
Yep.
And then we get our first real look at full-on Rey with the lightsaber, And that was just an awesome scene, I think, of and also the first kind of callback to Last Jedi, with Rey saying, "Everybody thinks they know who I am, but no one knows."
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a play off on that whole thing of the Last Jedi of Rey being a nobody.
Right.
And then, of course, Kylo saying, "I do," and of course that awesome scene of him walking towards and looks like they're getting ready to go into battle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what did you think?
Of all the scenes in this, I think that one is probably going to be our deceiver scene, because Kylo uses a very straightforward fighting technique. He's very aggressive with how he fights, and that could just be how he was trained. It could be that's his preferred method of fighting.
Yeah.
But anyway, as he walks up to her, you see him kind of move the lightsaber as if he's getting ready to make an attack, but he flips it around so that the blade is pointing the other direction.
Yeah.
And
that, I mean, we've seen other characters in Star Wars that will, at least not necessarily in live action that much, but we have seen other characters in Star Wars use a reverse grip fighting style.
Right. Which I agree with that, but we haven't seen Kylo do that.
This is true, and with his style of sword, with the hilt and the crossguard, it doesn't really make sense that he would use a reverse style.
Yeah, it seems like it would be kind of awkward. Most of the time when they're using reverse style, I'm pretty sure they're using the dual lightsaber technique, though.
A lot of times they are, yeah. Ahsoka used it a lot, especially in Clone Wars. She used the and so did in the old video game, the old Force. I almost want to say Force Awakens, but the Force Unleashed video games, Starkiller used a reverse grip too. So yeah, that's really interesting of that being. Although we do see a scene later on where they are fighting, it looks like they're fighting on that same piece of the Death Star.
Right. Yeah.
Then of course you get the that iceberg. Oh, and the floating iceberg.
Oh yeah, the floating iceberg.
With all the TIE, which I found out those are a new type of TIE fighter.
Really?
Those are called the TIE Whisperer.
They seem faster. I mean, that could just be the way they do it.
They're like a stealth.
A
stealth. They're like a stealth fighter. They're called the TIE Whisperer. No idea if they're a First Order variant or a Imperial variant. Because of course, then as you said, we see the throne, and the first bit of dialogue we've heard from the Emperor.
Right. Which we kind of talked about a while back. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but we kind of talked about it a while back about how the Sith, rather than doing forced ghost, they tend to attach themselves to objects. And we had actually had that conversation that we were pretty sure the Emperor was connected to the throne.
Yeah. And I love the fact with the throne that they're using a Ralph McQuarrie design. That is, the throne that you see in that scene is directly from a design that Ralph McQuarrie drew for Return of the Jedi.
Right.
A concept piece. So that is awesome that you see that. And then of course you get the long have I waited, or should I say long have I waited. And now. And then of course you get the Imperial Star Destroyer.
Oh yeah.
Breaking up through the ice. The original, the classic coming up through the ice. And
I'll admit that was probably more of a got my heart racing more than seeing Leia's ship. I saw that coming up out, and
that was awesome.
I did a little fan squeal.
I wish I had my piece of paper here, because the next scene you see is the cornucopia of ships.
Yes.
That giant fleet, and I actually had a list and wrote down all the ships that I noticed and went online to find what other people had found, and I wrote them down, but unfortunately I do not have the list on me. So I'm going by just what I remember. Of course, we see the Ghost from Rebels.
Yeah.
Again, so a lot of people are speculating, will we actually see General Syndulla or any of the other Ghost crew?
Which kind of tied into our last trailer conversation, because we were talking about Ezra coming back.
Yes, that's another possibility. Could it actually be Ezra and Thrawn?
Right.
On the ship, which I'm going to get into another theory before long. We see also, if you notice in the distance, you see a from the prequels, from Episode 1, the Trade Federation battleship. We see one of those.
Yep.
The big one with the one that little baby Annie destroyed.
Right. Yeah.
We see also the ship from some of the old video games. We see the ship of Kyle Katarn, and who was the other guy? My mind's gone blank now. But yeah, just a lot of ships. Some old Moncal, some new Moncal variations, and some old Hammerhead corvettes.
Yep.
Some ships from the old Republic games. Just a ton of ships, and this leads me to my first. I don't know if you would say, if you think this might be an issue. It's because it seemed like in The Last Jedi, they tried to go out of their way to, quote unquote, as they said, subvert our expectations.
Right.
So there was virtually no fan service. And it went from, do you think that the pendulum may have swung too far? That with Last Jedi, they gave us no fan service. And with this movie, at least with this trailer, it seems like here's all the fan service.
Yeah. I think here's what I think, and this is just Ray giving his opinion and his theory on this. It's short. I think what they're doing with this trailer is they have seen. There's no way they couldn't have seen everything that everybody was talking about and how worried they were that being the last movie that it was going to be garbage and nobody was going to like it. There's no way you could avoid all that. So I think what they did with this trailer was to be very specific and show people, no, look, this is going to be good. You have to watch it. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I think so. You see that scene, of course, you get the line of, "Your coming together will be your undoing." And here's my question. Who is the Emperor talking about? You're coming together. I know Rey is one of them, but
I honestly think it's Rey and Kylo.
I think so too. I think that you're going to see the First Order and the Resistance. They start to see that the Emperor is a bigger threat to all of them. And you're going to see them starting to work together and to combat the growing rise of the Emperor. That they start to see him as a shared threat.
Yeah.
And that they need to work together and overcome their differences and work together. Then, of course, we get the first kind of, I guess you could say, emotional scene with 3PO. I mean, what did you think of that? I mean, when you first saw it and, 3PO gives the line of, "I'm taking one last look at my friends."
Well, I think 3PO was always kind of a cynical pessimist for a droid. And I think he's probably telling them that this is it for them. I mean,
there's been rumors that he's going to have his memory wiped,
and that's very, very possible. I mean, it's happened previously because he always gets onto R2 about telling stories.
Yeah, but I think in a way it kind of makes sense because George has said in the past that the droids were sort of the eyes of the audience. That the story was told through the droids. That they were our kind of look into this world. They were the stand-in for the audience, and so it would make sense as this saga is coming to an end, that is closing as we're closing our eyes on this saga, that the droids would also be closing their eyes on it.
That's
kind of it's almost like a meta sort of thing for that. So, but I know why they put it in there in the trailer. It was to tug on those emotional heartstrings of, this is a beloved character. He's been there since the beginning. C-3PO has been in every movie. He's the one character that's been in every movie of this, other than, of course, the I think Solo. He wasn't in Solo, but other than that, he's been in every single movie.
Yeah, he has. He's been there throughout every single one of them.
And he might be an annoying droid, but darn it, he's our annoying droid.
Yeah,
it's that kind of thing. It's like, yes, he's annoying, but he's our annoying droid, but he's our annoying droid. So, I mean, there's so many things, as you said before, there's so many things that could happen with that. And then that score, when it goes into that slowed down version of the Star Wars thing, that was just, wow. That to me was just awesome.
I agree. And he was, to me, C-3PO was always meant to be the comic relief. He had his moments here and there.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know. I feel like, again, kind of going back to the Kylo thing, I think maybe this is meant to be a little out of character for him. I would really hope that they weren't going to wipe his... If they do, I hope it's in the very beginning of the movie.
Well, there's another theory that I've heard is that they're not wiping his memory, they're uploading it.
Oh.
They're doing what they did in Solo, where they're uploading his consciousness, so to speak, into a ship, or that he is going to be a spy. And that's why you see him with the red eyes, that they're going to, and to do that, they have to wipe his memory.
Which we kind of saw a droid infiltration in the Clone Wars. So
yeah,
I guess that is
there's also another theory that, I don't know if you've heard this one, that 3PO has been a spy in some sense from the beginning.
I have read some of those theories, and that would be very interesting.
And yeah, an unwitting spy.
Yeah.
That he didn't know that he was spying for essentially Vader.
Right.
But
that would just be, I don't know, that'd be too much for everybody to handle.
Yeah. And of course you get the, shortly after that, you get the, I just have to say this really quick. Space Horses FTW.
I know. Oh my gosh.
I was like, Space Horses. Yes.
I know. I saw that. I was like, what? I mean, people always referred to Star Wars as a space western, but come on.
And then the voiceover, we get the first voiceover from Luke, saying that it is the destiny of a Jedi to confront fear.
Right.
And I don't know what you think, but who do you think he was talking to? My theory is he was talking not to Rey. I think he was talking to Kylo. That's Kylo is the one who needs to confront his fear.
I mean, my first initial impression was that he was talking to Rey, but now that you say that, yeah, I
think we're going to see. I think we're going to see, because if one thing Star Wars has always done is Star Wars has always been about, and I think this trailer showed me a couple of things. One, you're not going to get Darth Rey.
No.
Because Star Wars has always been, there's two things that Star Wars has always been. It's always been about the battle between good and evil, and it's been about redemption.
Yep.
We saw the redemption of in the original trilogy. We saw the redemption of Anakin, and there was a very good definition between what was good and what was evil. Even in the sequels, the prequel trilogy, they kind of did that the same. It was a little bit more nuanced, but you definitely got the idea that the Jedi were good and the Sith were bad. That the Republic and the clone troopers were good and the droids were bad. And with the original trilogy, of course, it was even more clear cut, where the rebels were good, the Empire bad.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what they made us want to believe.
Yes. Again, foreshadowing. Dun, dun, dun. But again, it was also been about redemption. And I think we're going to see the redemption of Kylo.
I would absolutely agree with that.
I think, and some people who said that it can't, I know there's people who say that it can't be done after he killed Han. It can't be done, but.
Well, I mean, Anakin pretty much killed everybody he knew.
Yeah.
So.
And I think it's going to be this new threat of the Emperor that kind of brings him into. And I think that when you see that scene where you see them on the wreckage of the Death Star, I think that's a situation where they both have been drawn there.
Mm-hmm.
And they start fighting, but then they soon realize that we need to work together. And that scene where where they're destroying the statue, that looked like a Vader statue to me.
Yeah, I had seen that elsewhere. Other people said the same thing. I haven't taken the time to really slow it down and look at it yet, but
it happens so fast, and
it really does, though. I mean, it does look like a Vader statue,
and it's hard to tell where that's at, because it definitely looks like Imperial or First,
right?
Very whitewashed. So it doesn't look like it's necessarily inside the Death Star. It could be inside a Star Destroyer. Possibly, the Emperor's personal ship or something like that.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting to me is that behind them, when they destroy the statue, behind them, the way the opening is shaped is the same style of the Vader's chamber that he was able to take his suit off and everything. It's kind of that same, those, for lack of any other term, the teeth are the same shape and everything. So.
Well, and I've heard another theory that this might be a shared Force vision, because it is so, of all the scenes, that's the one scene other than the scene where you see Rey and Poe, or not Rey and Poe, but Finn and Poe running through the corridor shooting the stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one scene that seems like that's not inside, that's not in the Death Star.
Right. And we also see Kylo's got his mask back on.
He's got his. That's the one. That's the only scene that you see him with his helmet on.
Mm-hmm.
Is that scene right there? That's the only scene in this trailer that you see him with his. And it looks like they're working together in that scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
That they're working together to take down this whatever this threat was. And it looks like after he does it that he goes to take the mask off. If you notice a split second, they hit the statue or whatever it was, and then as he turns around, Kylo reaches for his. Looks like does. Kylo reaches for his mask.
Yeah,
like
he
he's
reaches
going to
for the
take
chin.
It off.
Yep. I see that now.
Then you got the scene of
space
just
horses.
That massive fleet.
Yeah, more space horses for a brief moment.
Yes, more space horses.
How are they outside?
I think this fleet is still in the atmosphere.
Ah.
I think this is a fleet. I think this is going to be a battle that's going to take place, or at least that's part of the battle is going to take place inside the atmosphere of a planet. So that's why the horses are able to. And they have this. The horses have a name, but I cannot for the life of me remember it. We also get in an earlier scene. We get some Y-wing love.
Yep.
The Y-wing actually doing something for once instead of just being blown up.
Right.
In that big battle scene, we also see an X-wing and a B-wing.
Yep.
We got a good good look at a B-wing. That was pretty awesome. And then our first tiny glimpse of the Emperor.
Yep.
At least the cloak.
Well, yeah, a little side hood.
Little side hood, yeah. And of course, a little bit of the laugh, and it looks like he's on sort of mechanical throne or chair.
Yeah, it does. Got some wires or something coming off of it.
Yeah. So do you think it could be a situation where he is hooked up like Vader was?
Oh, very likely.
Some sort of, he survived, but he's got some sort of mechanical apparatus that's keeping him alive.
That very well could be, yeah.
Because we've seen, that the dark side, as Palpatine himself would have said, the dark side is a path to powers that some might deem unnatural.
Right.
So, and then of course we got the last scene is Rey holding the lightsaber and Luke with the line, "The Force will be with you," and then just to put the knife right in the heart, Leia gets the final line of "always."
Yeah.
That was the emotional moment for me. That was the one that was like, okay, someone needs to stop cutting onions in here.
I genuinely believe that Leia is going to come back to talk to Rey as a Force ghost. I really do.
It'd be interesting. That would be interesting. So let's just kind of go back and look back at some of our theories and as far as how we think this movie is going to go.
Oh man. I think this is going to be a roller coaster for sure. But yeah. I think that the trailer is pretty well forthcoming in what we're seeing. There probably aren't going to be too many surprises. I think the biggest part of it is kind of like you said, it's going to be the redemption, it's going to be the closure, and it's going to be the good guys winning in the end. And I think that means that Rey is going to defeat the Emperor or the ghost of the Emperor somehow. I think she'll be able to defeat And I think Kylo's going to get his redemption by helping her, but I don't know what that means for Kylo once it's over.
Yeah. Yeah. I also noticed that there's a character missing. We haven't seen General What's-His-Name.
Is that why he's missing?
I don't know. It could be. It could be. So it'll be interesting to see how they, if they address that.
Yeah.
It was good to see Lando back.
Yep.
Always good to see Lando, and to see Lando back in the cockpit of the Falcon.
Yeah.
And the Falcon's got its dish back.
It did. In that scene with all the ships and it drops down, it's got its dish right on there.
Yeah.
All fixed up, right as rain.
All fixed up. That's right. And I did like the scene of all of them getting into the cockpit of the Falcon. That was kind of a cool scene.
I agree. That was a good scene.
Because that was the first time that we've really seen all of them together.
And Chewie looking young as always.
Chewie looks like he's been using some Pert shampoo or something, keeping his keeping himself shiny and the hair flowing immaculately, looking handsome as always.
Exactly. Apparently, Wookiees are extremely long-lived.
They are. But yeah, I think it's going to be a fun movie. This movie looks like it's going to be fun.
Yeah. I think, like I said before, I think that is exactly what they wanted out of this trailer, is for people to watch it and say, "Oh, okay, this is going to be a good one," and
I think so
not
too.
to be worried. Yeah.
Yeah, I think with the other two movies, especially with Last Jedi, and I enjoyed Last Jedi. I wouldn't say it's my favorite of the Star Wars movie, but I enjoyed it, and I know this is going to probably upset a lot of people, but oh well. I do feel that they tried to be too serious with Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And even into some sense with Force Awakens. And I remember 2 years ago, right before Force Awakens came out, me and my family did a rewatch through all the movies. And because my wife had never seen the original trilogy. And so we watched all of them, and I remember when we got to New Hope, because we watched them in chronological order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That after we got done watching A New Hope, my mom mentioned, the one word she mentioned is, she said, "I forgot how fun that movie is." That it's just that's the original Star Wars is just a fun movie.
Right.
And I think that's what I'm hoping to see from Rise of Skywalker, is just a fun movie. Just a fun ride. That, yes, there'll be some serious moments in there. Yes, there'll be some, tearjerker moments. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. If you don't like watching a grown man cry, don't sit next to me during this movie, because the minute that opening crawl comes up, I will be like a baby.
Right.
But that's just me. Yeah, I'm just hoping for a fun movie.
Well, here's the thing, and this is a theory of my own, moving on past the movie. My thing is, they're not just going to they're just not going to let Star Wars die. I mean, we had 4, 5, and 6, and it took a while before they came out in 1, 2, 3. And then it feels like it was almost half that time that they jumped in with 7, 8, 9. Yeah. I think they're not even going to give us a moment to breathe, to be honest. I mean, they had already had it lined up and they were talking about it. I mean, I really think they're not going to give anybody time to digest and really get nostalgic over it. They're going to just say, "Okay, here's the new Star Wars. Here, everybody. Here's another trilogy. Yeah. Oh, that one didn't come out so good. We're going to get a different director and try it again."
I think I kind of sadly I kind of agree with you, but I think that's a mistake. I think they need to give maybe not a ton of time, at least for, and I hope they do stick with what they're saying of this is the end of the Skywalker saga.
Yes. I think we've seen enough of the Skywalkers.
I don't mind them being like mentioned, like especially if the movies are going to go into the future of Star Wars, but definitely not to have them be the focal point of the story.
Yes.
Maybe a mention here and there of the Skywalkers or whatever is fine, but I think this needs to close that chapter. That chapter of the Skywalkers, of Luke, of Anakin, needs to end. One way or the other.
Right.
But
what I would like to see, and they can redo it kind of cyclical style and have it be the future, or just say, you know what, we're going to do a prequel, and I would like to see back when the Sith were at their height, when the Jedi were plentiful, and I want to see that time frame, because for me, when I watched Star Wars, it was all about the Jedi. It was about the Force, and for me anyway, that's just what I lived for, to watch.
Oh yeah, yes, I definitely want to see an Old Republic movie.
Yeah.
And see the Jedi Civil War with the Jedi versus the Sith, and or even and this is one thing I was kind of hoping that the Mandalorian TV series would have been the Mandalorian Wars and the rise of Revan.
See, that would be really good. You know what? They just need to do like another movie trilogy that was not so long ago, and they just need to start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Go all the way back and start at the beginning.
That's right. I think that about wraps it up for now. And before we go any further with our all our goodbyes and everything like that, we have a huge, massive announcement for our end of the year show.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that is right. Our end of the year show, we're going to be doing our biggest show we have ever done. We're going to be promoting the heck out of this thing. We are going to be doing the trial of Darth Vader. Yes, you heard that right. We're going to be putting the Dark Lord of the Sith himself on trial for his crimes or supposed crimes. I myself, your humble host, will be defending the good Dark Lord of the Sith, the good Lord Vader. And right here will be the prosecution.
Yeah. Inquisitor style.
Ooh. Joe, our other host, will be acting as mediator and kind of coming up with the whole concept of how it will work. We will be dropping hints and dropping, that kind of thing as time goes on. Right now, we're looking at probably late December, probably sometime before the movie comes out,
right,
to do this.
If at all possible, I think we should probably also see if we can use the Realm of the Mist Twitch channel, which I could have on off to the side, and that way if anybody else wanted to get on there and chime in with their thoughts, it could be relayed into the trial. Y'all could act as jury.
Yes. Well, that's the thing is you, the fans, are going to be the jury. You are going to, because when we come back from our holiday break, we are going to allow you to vote on whether or not you think Lord Vader is guilty of his crimes or not guilty.
Bum, bum, bum.
And of course, we will be doing a full breakdown of Rise of Skywalker once we get back from our holiday break then, but that is still several weeks away, so you got plenty of time. In the meantime, you can find us, of course, at wherever Realm of the Mist is heard, Realm of the Mist podcast are heard, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcast, and of course on Anchor.fm, which is your one-stop shop for all your podcast needs. You can find us on Facebook at Realm of the Mist Entertainment, and of course War of the Stars Entertainment, on Twitter at Realm of the Mist Entertainment, and email us at Realm of the Mist Entertainment at gmail.com. Me personally, you can find me on Twitter at John Mark Tolley 1, because I'm, of course, the number one John Mark Tolley on Twitter, Facebook at Mark Tolley, and Instagram at John Tolley 3930. Ray, where can they find you?
Well, obviously, right here, co-hosting on War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. I also can be found doing interviews with Breaking the Fourth Wall, acting as chronicler on Chronicles of the Lost Realm, which, if you go to Instagram and or Facebook and type that into your search bar, Chronicles of the Lost Realm, all one long sentence, you will find us there.
All right. And as always, you can find us next week, hopefully, barring any major disruptions in the space-time continuum. Next week, as we will be talking about the Empire and is the Empire truly evil? Until then,
here's a hint: they
remember, or were they? But we'll get into that next week. Until then, remember, this isn't just my Star Wars. This isn't just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. Until next time, may the Force be with you.